The day I was told I was no longer allowed to see my own daughters felt like something inside me had been ripped out and buried alive. I remember standing in that courtroom, hearing a stranger describe me as unstable, unfit, dangerous, and watching the judge believe every word. In that moment, I lost Sophie and Ruby, and I didn't even get to hug them goodbye. My name is Isabel Hayes, and for 2 years, I lived like a ghost in my own life. My ex-husband, Graham Pierce, took everything from me. He moved our twin daughters across the country to Seattle, changed their schools, blocked every call, and made sure I disappeared from their world. I was told I could not contact them under any circumstances. The court order felt final, but deep down, I knew something about it was wrong. Before everything fell apart, we looked like a normal family. Graham was charming, successful, and controlled every detail of our lives in ways I didn't fully understand at the time. I trusted him completely, even when small things felt off. Looking back now, I can see how carefully he built the narrative that eventually destroyed me. The psychiatric report that labeled me unfit became the weapon he used to erase me as a mother. For 2 years, I woke up every morning thinking about Sophie and Ruby. I imagined their voices, their laughter, the way they used to run into my arms after school. That silence became unbearable. I tried everything through legal channels, but every door slammed shut. It felt like I was fighting a system that had already decided I didn't matter. Then one morning, everything changed. I got a call from a doctor in Seattle. Her voice was calm but urgent as she told me Sophie had been diagnosed with acute leukemia. My hands started shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. She explained that Sophie needed a bone marrow transplant immediately, and because I was her biological mother, I might be a match. In that moment, nothing else mattered except getting to my daughter. When I arrived at the hospital, I barely had time to process anything before Graham appeared in front of me. His presence still had that same cold control, but now it carried something darker. He told me that if I wanted to help Sophie, I would have to agree to give up my parental rights permanently. He said it like it was a business deal, not a child's life. I felt sick just listening to him. The doctor stepped in before I could respond, firmly shutting him down and making it clear that no parent could use a child's life as leverage. That was the first moment I felt like someone was finally on my side. But what came next was something none of us expected. The hospital began genetic testing to find the best donor, and the results didn't just surprise us, they shattered everything we thought we knew. The tests revealed that Graham was not the biological father of either of my daughters. Even more shocking, Sophie and Ruby did not share the same father. It was something so rare that even the doctors paused to explain it carefully. Sophie's biological father turned out to be someone from my past, a man named Julian Reed. Ruby, however, was Graham's biological child. I felt like my entire past had been exposed in a single moment, but there was no time to dwell on it. Julian was contacted, and without hesitation, he agreed to help. He came to Seattle, went through testing, and turned out to be a perfect match for Sophie. Watching him step into that role without question reminded me what real responsibility looked like. While all of this was happening, another truth began to surface, one that was even harder to accept. Ruby was brought in for evaluation, and what the doctors found made my heart break in ways I didn't think were possible. She was severely underweight, weak, and showing clear signs of long-term neglect. The little girl I remembered was gone, replaced by someone who looked scared of everything. As the medical team documented her condition, it became clear that Ruby had been living in an environment filled with fear and control. She hoarded food, flinched at sudden movements, and struggled to trust anyone. I couldn't understand how this had happened right under the protection of a legal custody order. That realization turned my grief into something sharper, something closer to anger. I hired a lawyer named Patricia Lawson and an investigator named Frank Bishop, and together we started digging into Graham's life. What we uncovered was far worse than I had imagined. The psychiatric report that destroyed me had been completely fabricated by a doctor who wasn't even licensed anymore. Graham had paid for it, using it as a tool to take my children away. The investigation didn't stop there. We found financial records showing that money raised for Sophie's cancer treatment had been stolen and funneled into fake accounts. It wasn't just betrayal anymore, it was criminal. There were also records proving something deeply disturbing, that Graham had tampered with my birth control to force pregnancy. Realizing that my own body had been manipulated like that made me feel violated in a way I can't fully describe. By the time we went to court again, the truth had grown too big to ignore. Medical experts testified about Ruby's condition. Financial analysts exposed the fraud. The fake psychiatrist was arrested. Even the girls spoke, sharing things no child should ever have to say. Sitting there and listening to everything unfold was overwhelming, but for the first time, I felt like justice was finally within reach. The judge's decision came down with a weight that changed everything. I was granted full custody of Sophie and Ruby, and Graham was barred from contacting them. Later, he was convicted on multiple charges and sentenced 2 years in prison. When I heard the final sentence, I didn't feel triumph. I felt relief, like I could finally breathe again after being underwater for too long. Sophie's transplant was successful, and slowly, she began to recover. Ruby started therapy, and little by little, I saw pieces of her old self returning. My parents, who once doubted me, came back into our lives with regret and support. Julian remained present, not just as a donor, but as someone who genuinely cared. Now, when I look at my daughters, I don't think about the past in the same way anymore. I think about how strong they are, how much they survived, and how love isn't defined by biology or legal documents. It's defined by who shows up, who fights, and who refuses to walk away. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. The truth can be buried, twisted, and ignored, but it doesn't stay hidden forever. And when it finally comes out, it has the power to rebuild everything that was broken.